Ryan's coming to you again with Foundation of Civilization, Our Changing World. What's been happening around the world this week? Well, it seems the U.S. president's patience has worn out with Iran. Now what? Well, most of you already know. Over the past few months, a number of politicians, like Illinois and Minnesota governors, have called for violence against the United States president and his party. What happened this week in response? How are the markets reacting to everything? Let me give you a rundown with my weekly video. It's June 14th, 2025. Our world runs on energy, so that's where I start. As far as the markets go, the oil, West Texas Intermediate crude, spiked this week after the one of the reactions with the president's loss of patience. West Texas crude ended at $72.98. Brent ended at $74.23, and the OPEC baskets ended at $69.15. Gold ended the week at $3,433.17. Silver ended a little bit higher than last week at $36.32. The Baltic Exchange Dry Good Index actually did a pretty good run up this week. Ended at $1,968. U.S. 10-year bond yields dropped a little bit to 4.406. The U.K. bond yields were at 4.5569. Japanese bond yields were at 1.4021. Recently, and this is one of the first questions I had, what's happened with the U.S. president's patience on Iran? There's been a lot of rhetoric about Iran's nuclear program recently. And I'm quoting an article from the Iran International. It says that the UN National Nuclear Watchdog, a 35-nation board of governors, passed a resolution on Thursday formally declaring Iran in breach of its non-proliferation obligations for the first time in almost 20 years, which is interesting because they've been violating them for, well, most of that time. Also this week, the Director of National Security made an impassioned speech and spoke out about nuclear proliferation. In preparation, the U.S. evacuated personnel from the Middle East. And finally, Israel took action, with 200 aircraft striking 100 targets, including military bases, and I hope I pronounced this correctly. I apologize if I get it wrong, but Boroujerd, nuclear facilities like Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordo. They also struck prominent leaders of Iran. Some of their highest-ranking military officers, the head of its elite Revolutionary Guard Corps, and its Air Force, and a former national security chief. Those are Hossein Salami, Mohammed Bagheri, and Ali Shakamani. They've all been killed by Israel's unprecedented Operation Rising Lion. Although U.S. leaders deny involvement, the world knows that Israel would not have taken action if not for assurances and backing of the United States, and a healthy dose of weapons. In retaliation, Iran launched hundreds of drones and missiles at Israeli cities such as Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. The U.S. president issued a dire warning suggesting Iran make a deal, and I quote, "before there's nothing left," end quote. The U.S. continues to have a huge presence in the Middle East with a number of bases where personnel are stationed. And Al Jazeera noted that we maintain a military presence with 40 to 50,000 troops at least 19 locations. Some of those I've been to before. ISR flights in the North America remain pretty similar, focused on northern Mexico, the southern U.S. border, which is looking into northern Mexico. Surveillance of the western U.S. mountains. There's also quite a few locations in the United States. One that struck me was over Atlanta. We continue to have B-52s at Diego Garcia, a small island in the Indian Ocean. As far as the U.S. Navy is concerned, of the 293 ships that we have, 99 are deployed, 69 are underway. The U.S. George Washington returned to Yokosuka, Japan, after conducting some operations in the South China Sea. The USS America is underway in the Bismarck Sea. The USS Carl Vinson is operating in the Arabian Sea. The USS Abraham Lincoln, last noted, was in San Diego. The Harry Truman hopefully is still in Norfolk, Virginia, getting some well-needed rest and attendance to the ship. The USS Nimitz is operating in the South China Sea. The Ronald Reagan, still all we have is that it's away from its home port of Bremerton, Washington. The USS Tripoli arrived in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The USS Wasp was in Norfolk, Virginia. The USS Iwo Jima returned to Norfolk, Virginia. The Gerald R. Ford, all we know is that it was away from Norfolk, Virginia. And the George H.W. Bush was conducting operations off the coast of Virginia. In Europe, markets, well, they had some interesting times this week. The DAX ended the week at 23,516.23. The FTSE at 8,850.63. The CAC 40 at 7,684.68. The IBEX at 13,910.60. A horrible incident in Austria. A lone gunman went into a high school, killing 10 people. Most of them were teenagers, and there was one teacher that was killed also. And I quote from CNN, the suspect was a 21-year-old Austrian male who had previously attended the school but not graduated. And he used two weapons, a shotgun and a pistol, to carry out the killing spree before fatally shooting himself in a bathroom. This occurred in the Austrian city of Graz. Ukraine claims another victory over Russia's bomber fleet, which is interesting. They call it a bomber, but it was a MiG-31, which is it's a fighter bomber. It's a large fighter, small bomber. They launched an assault on Savoslayka airfield located in Nizhny Novgorod region of Russia, about 400 miles from the Ukraine border. Not a lot of details were provided. The aircraft is used by Russia to deploy MiG-31K fighters that can carry the Kinzhal ballistic missiles and have been, well, no, they wouldn't be ballistic missiles, the Kinzhal missile, that have been used against Ukraine armed forces and its cities. According to The Guardian, preliminary information suggests that two enemy aircraft were hit. Probably a MiG-31 and a Su-30-34 aircraft. In response, Russia launched a huge drone strike into Ukraine of 479 drones. In Ireland, anti-immigration riots after a child was attacked by an immigrant, and people have really gotten pretty irritated. The riots have been co-opted by opportunistic criminals who have engaged in looting as well. Over in Asia, the Nikkei ended the week at 37,834.25. The SSE index ended at 3,377.00. Hang Seng index ended at 23,892.56. And the Sensex ended at 81,118.60. And the Nifty 50 ended at 24,718.60. In tragic news, a Air India flight crashed on takeoff. It's still too early to tell. A lot of details are coming out. The black boxes were just recovered. There's speculation of equipment failure. Of course, it could also be pilot error. The aircraft was a long-haul Boeing 787 Dreamliner. And Boeing has been noted as having some manufacturing issues lately. The joke was that when one door opens, when one door closes, another door opens. That is last year. A Boeing safety officer was prepared to testify about the deteriorating standards of the company. A former safety officer, actually I believe it was a quality officer, and just before he was getting ready to testify, he was suspiciously found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound in the parking lot of his hotel. Like I said, it was very suspicious. Cybersecurity researchers at Sentinel Labs were alerted to a campaign of Chinese hackers, and Sentinel Labs noted that they were having their infrastructure was under attack, and as they started doing some research, they found that a number of their clients and other people were also being targeted, and apparently the attack originated in China. Last week, China exercised its expanding navy. I kind of laugh when I hear about people worried about foreign countries' aircraft carriers. Russia has one, and China has two. I mean, Spain, Italy, France, and United Kingdom each have more than that. But China they're working up. They had the Shandong aircraft carrier was out and about. This was in the Philippine Sea. The Japanese were shadowing it, or they were tracking it, watching it, and the Shandong was out with a number of other aircraft, conducting operations, launching aircraft, and recovering those aircraft. And and I apologize, the Liaoning, the sister ship of the Shandong, was in the Philippine Sea. But they've all been exercising, practicing to show that they can actually conduct operations off of an aircraft carrier. Let me tell you guys, it is hard. The United States does a good job of it, but we still lose quite a few people every year. This week, the Chinese and the U.S. president announced an agreement as they continue to work out the trade deal. This seems to be that the U.S. president needed a positive announcement as much as anything else, but they agreed that the rare earth elements and related items would be they would conduct trade. The Chinese would open up trade with those things. This is so that U.S. companies can use those key elements to make the magnets that are necessary for quite a few industries. In the Middle East, before the Israeli attack, Iran claimed to have seized a massive amount of information during the October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel. They claim to have gotten 100,000 documents on Israel's secret nuclear program, which is a terribly kept secret because it seems like everybody knows about it, but Israel continues to refuse to admit that they have nuclear weapons. Most of this week's news out of the Middle East has been dominated by the attacks that have been going on. Something I find interesting is that Hezbollah in Lebanon has refused to participate in retaliation. It's probably because most of their leaders were killed last year, which is probably why Israel killed their leaders last year. they didn't want to have to worry about dealing with them. In Africa, South Africa in particular, has been experiencing extreme floods. People are still being pulled from the waters, but so far, 86 have been killed. In South Sudan's clashes between the army and local militias are claiming a number of civilians. And in Nigeria, according to Amnesty International, 100 people have been killed by gunmen in north-central Nigeria. In the Americas, Dow Jones Industrial Average ended the week at 42,197.79. S&P ended at 5,976.97. And the NASDAQ ended at 19,406.83. Last week I reported on an ambush that killed 5 Mexican police officers in Chiapas. This week, there were 4 cartel members who were killed. I want to say it's in the same area, but I'm not absolutely certain. There's some news sources claiming the police crossed the border with Guatemala, and I apologize, I don't remember exactly where Chiapas is. But I do believe it is in southern Mexico. In Canada, police rounded up 11 suspects that are supposed to be part of the Montreal Mafia. This included the mafia leader Leonardo Rizzuto. This was a sweeping operation targeting organized crime across the province of Quebec. This week, last week the United States captured one Chinese person and had a warrant for another one. This week they caught a couple more people. And I quote from a article here that's from NBC. The FBI said in a criminal complaint that the researcher identified as Cheng Huan Han, a Chinese doctoral student at the College of Life Science and Technology at Haozhong University of Science and Technology in Wuhan. Should have told you something when they noted he was from Wuhan. He was arrested Sunday at the Detroit airport. Now, remember I asked you what the result of the calls for violence has been by politicians, including the governor of Minnesota and the governor of Illinois. Well, in Minnesota, the Democrat former House Speaker Melissa Hortman and her husband Mark were killed in their Brooklyn Park home. Senator John Hoffman, also a Democrat, and his wife Yvette were injured at their Champlain address about 9 miles away, allegedly by the same gunman. The authorities have identified the suspect as 57-year-old Vance Bolter, and an FBI has issued an award of $50,000 for information leading to his arrest and conviction. Bolter was appointed by Governor Walz to some of the boards, and the Democrat representative, Ms. Hortman, had broken with her party and denied and voted with the Republicans and denied medical coverage to illegal immigrants. This week, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, was hosting a meeting in LA when a sitting U.S. Senator tried to disrupt the meeting, and he was promptly arrested. There's lots of video out there, and he's feigning offense. Very poor decorum by a politician. It struck me as someone seeking attention. It was noted by former Deputy National Security Advisor, NSA Cybersecurity Director Ann Neuberger, that if a cyber attack hit critical infrastructure in the U.S., the infrastructure would likely crumble. Considering events between Iran and Israel and our porous border over the past 4 years, we should be very vigilant. The President's administration will direct its criminal prosecution apparatus toward networks of corrupt foreign officials who collaborate with drug cartels. It will also focus on dismantling networks of front companies used by drug traffickers to launder illicit proceeds. This is coming from an announcement this week by Department of Justice. I bring this up, the previous story up, because there's been a lot of misinformation come out of LA. Politicians on the left are complaining about immigration raids, but the raid they were protesting, that got everybody out in the street, burning cars and looting, was not an immigration raid. It was a criminal complaint against the cartels and their money laundering in the fashion district. A total of $80 million is what they were looking for. This included money they were getting from human trafficking. And I don't know who doesn't want to slow down or stop human trafficking, but, well, criminals and the cartels, and apparently some politicians. Those protests have been continuing through the weekend, and today a large number of protests were associated with the No King Day events. I actually did a video earlier this week on that, and I just picked up some of that, some new information over the past couple days. Now, in response to the violence that was erupting in LA, the U.S. President federalized the California National Guard over the protest of the California governor. This was the same thing President Kennedy did when Southerners stood in the way of African American children attending a non-segregated school in Arkansas, Little Rock, Arkansas. No matter how all of this plays out, we have a number of challenges ahead of us. Tensions continue to rise and everyone feels justified in their anger. I hope that you will pause before you react to a bad situation. Please stay vigilant and prepare yourself for the challenges ahead. If you have found this video to be useful, to be helpful for you this week, please like, share, and subscribe. And I forewarn you, at the beginning of this video I noted that there was a spike in oil prices. That typically leads to a fairly quick spike in gasoline prices, so it might behoove you to fill up some gas cans at the house. I hope that you guys are doing well, and I hope that you're spending some time with your children. It's actually getting late tonight, and because I spent some time with my wife, and we took a few moments to go out to eat. Please like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, I really appreciate it. It helps me with my addiction here, and hopefully one day I will get monetized with this. And I hope that you guys get some good information out of this and something that's helpful for you. Please have a great rest of your weekend, and I look forward to talking to you next week. And I probably won't do too much next week because I am taking a couple of days off. But I will be back and let you know what I see happening and how things are going. Thanks again, and I will talk to you again soon.